Chapter 13 Something Darkling Cometh. Still outside, Jack took in a deep breath of the night air. Rask had street lights, otherwise it would be pitch black. He leaned on a railing overlooking one of the streets. The city was quiet at night, except for the rare boot steps from patrolling guards or gusts of wind causing the scattered trees to rustle. There was utter silence. At the edge of one of the lights, something swooped past the distance. Jack would have missed it if he blinked. He stood up straight, and his skin turned red from fear. Cold immediately trickled up his spine, forming icicles that took the shape of spikes protruding. If he were more experienced, he would know how to turn that into both an armor and a weapon. Clinging to that fear, he forced himself to also remember his hatred for Sai. His left hand shimmered with a thin layer of fire, while his right retained a layer of flexible ice. He jumped off of the balcony and landed onto the lower street, which wasn't a far drop. Then he rushed forward, chasing the unseen thing. He shot a burst of flame at anything that moved in the shadows, even if something moved solely from his imagination. He took no chances. After the third shot, for the briefest of split seconds, he saw it. A fierce darkling illuminated as his fire shot past it. His fear almost overwhelmed him. He jumped back just in time to avoid the thing's swipe. The prismatic did what he needed to do. He called to mind the simple 1-2, 1-2-3 cadence. This doubled his speed. His skin turned bright purple as he clung to anger, fear, and song. The darkling in his perception moved slightly slower than himself. The creature swung again and again. Jack easily dodged and returned with a barrage of sharp ice shooting into the thing's face. It reeled back in pain. He did not lose the advantage and still retained the hatred, fear, and song. He then boldly added to the attack of magic in his mind the thought of the beast. Spectral green light exited his body and formed into his first summon. The beast moved how he moved, though it remained on all six legs. Though Jack could not see his full body at the moment, if he looked in a mirror, he would see that instead of the three colors combined, he would see red on his left, green in the middle, and blue on the right side, as wavy vertical quasi-stripes. The darkling swung uselessly at the multicolored mystic. The beast struck at the same time Jack did, and both made contact. Bones were heard crunching on the creature's face, and it collapsed on the street. Jack's flesh turned solid green, and the darkling shimmered the same color. The shimmers speckled off of the thing, streaming their way back to Jack. He absorbed the creature and knew he could summon it at any time he wanted. Then he felt something different, a sensation of a presence. Jack jumped back and looked around. He saw the stream of yellow magic that connected to his head and led from him to a darkened corner. A yellow-skinned person stepped out of the shadows. Finally! I've been waiting for you to reach higher potentials. You're mine now, he said both verbally and inside of Jack's mind. Jack didn't recognize this yellow mystic. It wasn't Sai, and it wasn't any of the shackled ones he met under the city. His skin looked soft, and he had a look about him that suggested he has never worked a day in his life. "On your knees, please," he said. Jack fell to his knees, unable to resist. I may have taken you too early. It seems you could do a great deal with fire and cold, and a bit of earth, and little to nothing with air. I'll probe deeper." Jack felt a digging sensation in his mind. The demon probed deep. Ah, there it is. A bit of healing, a decent amount of time weaving. But what's this? Yes, you can summon more than you realize. Excellent. Foolish Jack. Do you have any idea how rare it is for a master of summoning to give themselves to a new summoner like that? You have absolutely no idea what you could do. Hey! Someone called in the distance. It was a patrol finally discovering the scene. The yellow mystic didn't bother to turn to them. He quickly finished probing Jack. "Here, I'll show you what you can do." Jack turned green. Nord appeared in front of him. Jack remained motionless, but Nord raised his hands, and a dozen beasts came forth. Each moved independently, and they in turn rushed to the guards to attack. Hang on, Jack, that's not all. Nord got around, you see. You really should have taken the time to check out their repertoire. Watch, the yellow mystic said. The spectral Norg flicked a finger, and 3 mystics were summoned. The beasts remained unhindered. The 3 mystics must have been red, for they not only rose in the air with full control, but also lit up on fire and began firing blasts at the patrol. The guards were overwhelmed and perished immediately. The yellow mystic never took their eyes from Jack. Fun stuff, right? But we have work to do. Also, thank you for learning so much. Who are you? Jack thought. He could not speak. My name doesn't matter. Just know that you will be the savior of Rask and receive all of the glory. You may call me Onette. Tell me, Onette. Jack thought. Onette tugged at the empty air, and Jack jerked forward as if there was an invisible leash around his neck. He led Jack away. He's been taken over. You'll lose if you attack now, El said. Sai stepped closer to El, who has assumed a yellow form. I must try. My darklings are already in the city. El shook his head. Jack has killed one of his own. This telepath now controls him. He's powerful. He calls himself Onet. Yes, I've been warned about him. He's more powerful than I am right now. Where is he? I can send at least 6 to fight him. Again, El shook his head. Anything you attack him with will only end up under his control. Listen, I believe in your cause. Your people shouldn't be unjustly imprisoned like they are. I just don't think your plan will work. Through gritted teeth that clenched upon one another, Sai responded. What other choice do I have? Let them rot. They've been captive their entire lives, forced to make books and scan the minds of the citizens of Ras to control everyone. My darklings are almost in place. The council, including Drowsy and the top security people like Brutus, won't see it coming. Onette led Jack to the center of the city, to the council building. He hid himself. Sai began the attack. Brutus was the first to be confronted by a sneak attack. He woke up at the last moment of a darkling striking him. He twisted his body to avoid the deadly slash, but not fast enough. Both of his right arms were sliced clean off. Blood sprayed on the walls of his home. He jumped out of bed and avoided another swipe. He clutched his wound with his right arms. Using both fear and anger to his advantage, he caused the ice to form around the darkling's legs, then extended his upper arm, allowing his lower arm to hold his wounds. Fire shot out, aimed directly at the creature's head. It screeched in pain. The shadowed creature lunged forward. One leg freed itself while the other broke off. The thing tumbled down to the floor. It scrambled to get back to its feet, falling a second time. Brutus did not waste the opportunity. The large red mystic jumped to the other side of the room, snatched one of his swords, then letting go of his wound, clutched the blade with both hands, and moved in, chopping the thing's head off just as easily as it had removed his arms. He fell to his knees, exhausted and in pain. He could no longer ignore. Drowsy stepped out of the council hall. He was covered in darkling blood. His robes were torn, but he himself remained unscathed. His face was dark, scowling at the events taking place. He looked and saw Jack fighting a wave of darklings. Their prismatic skin was currently green. Just in front of him was the green spectral image of Norg. Norg had all 4 hands raised in the air. Each darkling attacking Jack had to deal with 4 defenders, each controlled by Onette through Jack and through Norg. His mental puppet commands were not only precise, but if anyone were attacking Onette, they would see him relaxed. He kept himself well hidden in the shadows. So you have him, A thought entered Onette's mind. Yes, I do. Why don't you come out of hiding so I can make him kill you, Sigh? Onette sent the thought out. It doesn't matter. I'm exposing you even now. The people of the city are becoming aware that you control everything. Onette chuckled. Do you honestly think that will matter? I'm in everyone's mind here. I can make them forget. Your darklings are getting slaughtered. Only the ones I'm sending at you. Onette's eyes widened with revelation. He started to sprint down the street, waving a hand for Jack to follow. Jack helplessly obeyed the command. He dismissed Norg and summoned his beast, mounted it, and as he passed his yellow master, Jack had his right hands extended. Onett took them and joined him on the beast. Together they sped through the city. Faubriz and Soon were defending a council member against a darkling. The council person had their back to a corner and nowhere to run. Faubriz utilized flames to keep the thing at bay. Fire formed a wall between them and the creature of shadow. I can only hold that wall up for so long, Faubriz said through a sweaty brow. Soon drew his bow and notched an arrow. Maybe we can have maybe we should have gone to Cadance. He let the arrow fly, and the darkling ducked, avoiding it. Soon half frowned. A blue blur jetted by. It circled the darkling, which responded by swinging a talon, which missed. The blue streak moved the creature's head, and a shimmering silver edge slashed across the darkling's throat. The blue one moved back and actually stopped moving, revealing themselves. To no one's surprise, he was a time weaver. The darkling's head fell off. Soon and Faubriz were speechless, not by how easily a time weaver dispatched a darkling, but at the very sight of this time weaver. He wore armor, wielded two swords, had a shield on his back, and upon that armor was the insignia of the city of Cadance. He turned to Faubriz and Soon. Surrender, he commanded. The two looked at each other, then looked back at the blue soldier. They blinked in confusion. What? Soon managed to ask. The soldier ignored them and sped past them faster than they could blink. They stopped at the council member with a sword raised. Surrender! He demanded a second time. Faubriz put up a hand to his mouth. He gasped. He's not here to save us! All throughout the city, the guards were finally organizing and able to confront the Darklings. The entire city erupted in controlled flame, rendering the invading creatures powerless, but not defenseless. Those things still had their talons, but were a poor match against organized city guard. With every guard distracted by the invading monsters, they were unprepared by an additional attack from Cadance. They came in two waves. The first wave sped past the defenseless in the guards upon the gates. They altered their speed to no longer enhance their own movements, but to render the guards at the gates, forcing them into a slowness they had never experienced. Now we can go in, Sai said to El. Wow, the timing of the Time Weavers to attack right before you did. That's not a coincidence. I told them, Sai said with a bitter tone. I've been coordinating this ever since I became yellow. Sai snapped his fingers, and a large darkling that must have been there the entire time lurched out of the shadows. He climbed on top of it and helped El mount as well. They took flight towards the city. The moat around it was in full flame, preventing any more darklings from entering. They ascended a height far too high for the fire to affect them, though it did prevent the thing from being invisible. The entire city was too busy dealing with darklings and time weavers to notice Sai and El diving from above. Three darklings lurched from the shadows inside of the jailhouse. They sneaked past guards, which were scrambling to fortify as much as possible. They made their way to the hidden entrances in the chambers that imprisoned the psychics. When they reached a dead end, they slashed at it with their talons. Rocks ripped apart, revealing the secret door. The smallest darkling of the three extended one sharp, thin-bladed finger. It started to pick the lock. The other two had their backs to him to keep watch. After a moment, the click of success echoed in the silent hallway. They opened the door and proceeded into the even darker room. Every yellow head turned to see the darklings enter. With the same expressionless, skull-like faces that darklings always had, the three began the work of freeing the captive psychics. One darkling moved in silence into another hidden room. Upon opening the secret door, there was another hallway. Lining both sides of the hallway were doors going all the way to the end. The creatures crept into the first door on the right. The door was not locked. It slowly opened just enough for the stalker to squeeze in without allowing outside light to pour in. Inside this room was one sleeping psychic. He lay in a large bed made out of the most comfortable and lavish material the world could know. This room was adorned with decorations that made any other person's home appear not only shabby, but of impoverished conditions. One wall was lined with the orb books. Another had racks of garments of the softest and rarest material, while the darkling cared not one way or the other about how rich and comfortable this psychic lived. Sai saw through his eyes and became all the more angry, almost losing control of this most valuable and crucial of darklings. "Kill him!" was the command Sai gave. In a single strike, the sleeping occupant's head fell. The darkling caught it with their other talon, refusing to allow even the slightest noises to occur. He crept out of the room and proceeded to the next. In each room, the same thing was discovered, and the same thing happened. Sneak in, kill, sneak out, and repeat. When it exited the final room, Onett and Jack arrived. They were too late, and it made no difference that they killed the Darkling with ease. "I won, Onett," Sai sent the telepathic message. Onett's left eye twitched. He growled with anger. "Oh, I'm going to kill you, Sai, myself." A psychic spilled into the streets, rushing to claim their freedom. Red guards were finished dealing with the Darklings, only to be confronted by blue time weavers. Both red and blue mystics had no time to react to the discovery of demons, as they had to deal with one another. Onett led Jack out and to the main battle near the center of the city. "Kill every time weaver," Onett commanded. While Jack could not fly, he could hover. With no control over his feelings, he felt the rare sensation of happiness and rose into the air. He also felt anger, fear, and sadness all rolled up in one. Then his brain, while holding these feelings, also began the familiar tune, and finally he focused his mind on Norg. Due to his lack of experience, he could only summon one charge at a time. That charge still had no problem summoning their entire force to their aid. A small army smoked into existence. They reached the battlefield within the city. Onett slipped into a place hidden in one of the homes. He made himself some tea as the battle commenced, then sat cross-legged on a pillow. The residents could not move, paralyzed by the telepath's mind. Jack assumed the true prismatic form. 3 of the 4 colors of the 4 moons gleamed across his skin, striped vertically from left to right, blue, red, and green. Those colors moved shimmering across his body. Time Weavers moved in to attack Jack, but they moved at the same speed he moved at, to which the prismatic could set them aflame with ease. Their armor only acted as a conductor, and they roasted alive. Each Time Weaver Jack killed only added to his potential of charges he could summon. The guards formed a line near Jack, making a massive circle of fire with them inside, leaving a single opening to forcing the Time Weavers to attack solely from the front. The invaders were not stupid. They didn't rush into their deaths. Instead, they backed off and attacked any guards not inside of the protective semicircle. By this time, every council member, with the exception of just one, has been slain. Drosy actually flew in the air and landed next to Jack. They made eye contact. Jack's eyes were glazed from the telepathic control. Drosy nodded as if understanding, then turned forward to face any would-be threats coming their direction. Brutus casually stepped into the circle. In his upper hand he held the head, not connected to the body, of a dead Time Weaver. His lower arm clutched his sword. A guard, who happened to be a healer, rushed to his aid. Brutus callously pushed him away. The healer contorted their face in confusion, but put up no argument. Time Weavers began to lose the advantage as the organized militia anticipated their fast movements. Even when a Time Weaver focused on making the elementalists slow, it only meant they could not focus on making themselves fast, thus being vulnerable to attack. The attacking force was several hundred Time Weavers, and were reduced to less than 70. They knew they no longer could win. A loud horn was blown in the distance, marking their retreat. As fast as they came, they then moved equally fast to leave. Some were slain as they left. The door to the home Onett was in burst open. Sai and El rushed in with the Darkling behind them. Onett glared at them, then sent a mental command to the Darkling, attempting to seize control over it. His mind reached and felt nothing where a mind should be. Onett squinted, confused. The illusions of Sai, El, and the Darkling waved and faded. Onett spun around, but was too late. El swung his sword, slashing the telepath's arm. Onett jumped back. You think I'm stupid enough to bring a Darkling to you? Sai said. It doesn't matter, Onett said, clutching his wounded left upper arm. He focused on El and sent his mind out to take the lunar shapeshifter. El dropped his sword and clutched his head, trying to resist. Sai appeared behind El, revealing his true self, and not an illusion. He raised his four arms up in a symbolic gesture, then swung down. Yellow magic arced out of his hands and flashed over to Onett, popping right before him. It's not nearly as easy to take over the mind of a psychic than it is to anyone else. You've got to focus a little harder, don't you? Onett controlled El and forced him to pick up his sword and attack Sai. Sai jumped back and out of a window behind himself. He wore a triumphant look upon his face. Jack blinked rapidly. His prismatic form ended, and he fell down 3 feet to the ground. His upper arms clutched his head as everything started to come into focus. He looked at his lower hands and knew that he controlled himself once again. Drowsy looked at him and glared. Jack didn't notice. He knew where he was and what was going on. The prismatic summoned his beast, mounted it, and rushed straight through the opening of the flame circle. Let him go. He's our hero today, Drowsy said. He raised his voice loud enough for Jack to hear as he galloped away. The Prismatic has saved us all. Jack didn't need to look back to know Drowsy was full of shit. Even if it was true, he knew the Elder was lying. End of chapter 14. Epilogue. The gates closed behind Jack. Way in the distance ahead of him, he saw the retreating Time Weaver's blue blur fade over the horizon just past the river. That river marked the beginning of Time Weaver territory. I might have actually been welcomed with open arms if I fought with them instead of against them, Jack said. Still on the back of his beast charge, still rushing forward, he slowed his pace but refused to stop. As he approached the bridge, he frowned. It all makes sense now. With that thought, he came to a full stop just a few paces from the bridge. demons control the whole city. That monster that took control of me. Those guards that could just somehow know when, where, and who, and what crimes are committed with such accuracy. Does Drowsy control them, or do they control Drowsy? Those Time Weavers were right to attack. Why did Sai attack with the Darklings if the demons already control the city? Why were the demons in chains? Every answer just brings in more questions. Jack sighed. He turned to the east, looking over the ocean. The beginning rays of the sun gleamed just past clouds on the horizon. Jack turned from green to red. His beast vaporized, and he fell on his feet, expectantly. He shuffled his feet forward. The ground carried him more than he carried himself. Obeying his elementalist depression commands. Then, at the edge of the ground, just before the sand, Jack commanded the ground beneath him to form into a raised chair. His body slumped into the earth chair, and he watched the sun rise. Furthermore, his eyes felt heavy. His muscles felt weak. Jack's head began to droop, and even through the bright sunlight he lost consciousness. "Hello, Jack," Elle's voice said. "Elle, where are you? Where have you been?" "You still hate the psychics, don't you?" "Yeah, no more than ever, especially after one took control of me." Jack felt a mental shake from Elle's head, even though he couldn't see it. "A demon freed you from him, Jack. The city is more antiquated than you know. So are the yellow people." Jack shifted his head to a direction he believed Elle could be within the darkness. "A demon couldn't help me." "Only a psychic can free someone from the mental bonds of another psychic. You aren't ready for the truth. When you're ready, come back to Rask." Jack wanted to say more, but the dream ended. He opened his eyes, still sitting in the earthen chair. His body was slumped down. The sun was high in the sky. More than half of the day had gone by. He stepped off of the chair, standing up fully erect. He refused to look back at Rask, and shook his head. Then he looked at the bridge, down the road in the distance. Jack turned green, and summoned his beast, mounted it, and proceeded. "Jack!" the voice of Soon called. Jack looked and saw Soon and Phobers running towards him. "Oh!" They reached him. "Why did you leave? Rask, everyone is worshipping you as the hero that saved the city." End of Part 1 of The Prismatic. Here's some ad-lib final thoughts I have on this book. I'm not done writing Part 2, and I don't know if I ever will. If this book draws enough interest, then I will write Part 2, which basically explores Jack going into Cadance and dealing with whatever problems they have. Let me know if you're actually interested in a Part 2. Otherwise, this is the end. Have a good one, everyone.